Hey y'all, and welcome back to another video of My Creative Life with Kel Sweetie, where we read books and we make art, and we start to get into the holidays. Yes, it is that time, y'all. We are halfway to Halloween. My favorite, honestly, this is a great time of year for me. Because coming off of my birthday month, basically we go into Halloween hunting season. It's starting now. We're already seeing Halloween adjacent things at Michael's currently, which I've definitely started. It has started, the Halloween hunting. Was it a little bit of retail therapy? Certainly so, because I ended up thrifting all day, but everything was 50% off. So who am I to not thank the thrift gods for simply providing in my themes, you know? That being said, we have started a tradition here on the channel as we are nearing our Halloween hunt and doing our halfway to Halloween, and that is planning for our Halloween themes for this year. And mainly that's because I've started this thing where I go to the spooky swap meet. That basically is usually the kickoff for my Halloween hunting, but because of Michael's and some sales and some coupons and some well-placed thrift stores, I've kind of already started. So prepare in May for our first Halloween haul of the year, because I've already found even some Christmas decor. I know, but again, it was really great prices. It won't be Christmas. We're not talking about Christmas just yet. That will show up in a haul further down the line when I start feeling like it's okay to start talking about that. But there will be a Halloween haul coming shortly in next month, so prepare yourselves. I know that some of y'all who are here for the book channel are like, what the hell is happening? However, once we pass April, we start mixing in some Halloween crafting art videos along with the book videos. It's not strictly books anymore. That's where we do art comes in from the intro. But as I was saying, the ongoing trend that we've created, the tradition that we've started here on the channel, is I go over my Halloween Decorate With Me videos from the year before as inspiration and also just a way to look at what I already have for themes that I want to do this year. Now, last year was different because I went all out. It was my first year doing very specific themes in each part of my house, my designated areas, which if you have not seen my Halloween videos and everything, is the kitchen, the above my bookshelf area in my dining room or my book nook, and then our living room TV area and the shelving corner that we have in the living room. Now, this year I have my TBR shelves now, and it's a possible bonus that I'll be doing a small bookcase type of thing over on the top of my bookcases for my TBR shelves. I don't know yet. It depends on where some things ended up going, how much I have left, because I have a tad bit of a concern in one of my themes on whether or not some of the things that I really love in my decor are going to be able to fit in some of the things I have planned. And of course, I still want to have those things out. In all honesty, some of my Halloween specific things are starting to be out all year. Just the things that make sense, not very like the pumpkins and stuff like that. But as I start to get a little bit more set designy with my Halloween decor, some of those things end up, one, because of space in the boxes and in the storage space, but also two, because some of those things really just create a lot of joy inside of me and I want them out all year. I'm getting ahead of myself, but we are going to be going through all 4 of those videos very, very quickly. Last year, I had a 17-minute video basically to sit through, and I just put it on speed, and we walked through it entirely. We are not going to do that today because each one of these videos were around 30 minutes. Yes, 30 minutes.
Do you know you have 30 minutes?
Are you kidding me?
30 minutes. 30, yes.
And I don't want y'all sitting through that. Y'all are really here. If you are here to get some creative inspiration for your Halloween decor, or you're just like, I'm interested in just, I know last year I heard a lot of people go, I'm honestly just interested in seeing you do this because I'm amazed by it, then stick around because we will definitely be getting into a lot of creative ideas, what DIYs are coming up this year, what I'm looking for thrifting wise. But I've already jammed my jaws too much. Let's get into the intro, and then we can talk just a bit more before we get into these themes and start looking back at our Halloween from last year. So as I said in the intro, and yes, I have my little coffee here. Usually it's just sitting over here and I'm like, I'm trying to get in the fall mood. It's very gloomy today, so it's a perfect day to kind of do this. Because it's been very sunny, which we love because it was gloomy for far too long in LA, to be honest. But this is the perfect weather for us to be planning our Halloween today. And I kind of got a little sneak peek last night in preparation for today's filming, looking at some of these videos because I know how long they were going to be, so I didn't want to kind of sit through essentially 2 hours of me watching back these videos. As I said in the intro, last year was my first year really taking it to a whole nother level. And it was so much fun because it wasn't just jack-o'-lanterns and hocus pocus type of stuff anymore. It was really getting into the collectible kind of idea of Halloween and creating more of and showing the different flavors of Halloween, and also how some people decorate their house, or if they're collectors and stuff, all year. So for instance, last year my book nook area was 90s first grade Halloween party inspired. As a millennial, I will go 10 toes down on the fact that 90s kids probably had the best era of Halloween. I will stand with that. I will stand on that. And it's not to be disrespectful because obviously we had the Ben Cooper costumes of the 70s and even the 80s with the Collegeville. Of course, 80s slasher films are iconic and everything. And it's not to sit there and say that those eras do not, of course, have their rights. And even like folk Halloween, which of course I collect, and vintage Halloween. But I think as far as the height of fun, of the height of creative, kooky fun, and arguably the last era of really creative ideas of coming from Halloween was the 90s. You know, it was the era of the Goosebumps. It was the Are You Afraid of the Dark? Snick was out, and we were getting the greatest Halloween specials ever. Check out my 90s Halloween watch list if you're just trying to get yourself in a little bit of a mood. I have a video out that has all of, movies and shows and everything. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do this year in regards to my watch list because now I've kind of exhausted a lot of what I've already kind of put out there as far as books and movies and shows that you can watch to get into a sort of Halloween vibe. One, I had to really go back into my nostalgia and look at what, when I was in first grade, really made it feel like, wow, this is Halloween, and really kind of created this space of why I love Halloween now, why it's such a safe space for me to kind of recreate every year. I had so much fun trying to find these things, both on eBay, thrifting, out at these conventions, finding things like Lisa Frank Halloween pencils, or Goosebumps novels, or I don't know. What else did I find? I found some great, this Beetlejuice, which now I have out all year, this little Beetlejuice action figure from the 90s. He was, that's so much fun. They're not doing anything like that for the new ones. And now I keep that out all year. The little McNuggets from McDonald's. There was just so much that I could tap into. I think that this is my version of upcoming trends for the year or whatever. Because then we also saw, of course, at Target, there was so much early 90s nostalgia in the space of Halloween that came out with some of their masks that they released and the different bright colors that they were releasing in that line. Of course, this year, I mean, unless they were, Target would have to pull a Hail Mary for many of us to really support them anymore, considering how badly they did their audience. How bad I don't want to get too far into it, but of course I won't be shopping. I don't have no plans to shop at Target this year. And that's both a good thing in its own way, because it is going to force me to get a lot more creative. Last year I found the power of eBay and found some amazing items for very cheap prices. I mean, the Beetlejuice action figure came in a lot of two, and I'm positive that I paid $15, $20 for the two of those. So that was $10 a piece for something that causes a lot of joy and is something that's actually vintage, like very, very much so. Very long-winded, but I say all that to say that this area was probably my favorite, the Book Nook area, that I've probably ever done, and it was the biggest challenge and the biggest reward when I finished. You can go back and watch that video yourself so that you can see what that really ended up being. My kitchen was probably my second favorite space, and that was my Practical Magic Witch kitchen. Again, because I was setting a scene, and it was the first year that I actually did something with the kitchen. Every other year, whatever was left over basically gets thrown in the kitchen. And this was a year that I really wanted to do something different. And so I bought moss, and I bought fake flowers and jars and vintage apothecary medicine items of all kinds, quack medicine herbs, and oh my gosh, it was just so much fun putting that together. Candles of all kinds. So it really felt like this apothecary witch kitchen that easily could have been placed in Practical Magic. And it was so wonderful to go in there every morning to make breakfast or coffee or something, and it really set the scene. And that's where I started my decorating for the year. And it felt more like set design than home decor. And I loved that. I loved that feeling, and I approached pretty much all of the rest of my decor for the rest of the season that way, and it really worked, and I want to do the same this year. My TV area was the Monster Mash movie area, so really I kind of put everything, all the movies and stuff that I love from Halloween, that I watch around Halloween, in that area. Memorabilia of all kinds, very movie focused. And then for my corner, I had, of course, my vintage items, my vintage folk, very traditional Halloween, and I put that in that corner area, and I did like it. I have some thoughts, and I'm like, it felt like a little bit of an afterthought in comparison to the rest of my house that were so detailed, to be honest, and I'm trying to do something different to try and counteract that, because I didn't like how those are some of my favorite Halloween items, and because I got so wrapped up in set design that felt more like, well, I have to put these Halloween items somewhere because they do cause joy. Which is also funny because it was my most watched video out of all 4 of those decor videos from last year. And I think it's just because of the SEO being like vintage Halloween and people looking that up. This year, I want to play off of some of those ideas because in all honesty, it was a lot of fun decorating in those themes. But I want to continue to challenge myself because it's a lot of fun. I don't just want to go, okay, well, let's decorate the exact same this year. Maybe next year I can circle back to it, but I wanted to kind of have a little bit of a change just so that I can have that, okay, how do we pull this off? That's a lot of fun, and why I kind of do Halloween decorating is because it just feels like, okay, I've come up with an idea. Can I pull off that idea? And how do I pull it off? And the more detailed I get with these themes, the more that seems like a possibility. So, like I said, I'm not going to go through all of the videos. Please, I'm going to have them all listed in the description box down below, just because they're 30 minutes a piece. And I don't think that it's smart to sit there and have a 2-hour video of me rewatching all of those and then another half-hour tacked on of me talking about my themes for this year. So I have already watched a good portion. I'm going to rewatch them off camera and move back and forth and kind of take some screenshots when I sit there and kind of decide to talk about some things. Let's start with the kitchen. I think that if we move throughout the house, that's probably the best way to go about this. The kitchen this year is going to be Haunted Mansion. Madame Leota's Haunted Mansion, Madame Leota's Haunted Kitchen, apothecary, fortune teller type of space. So it's going to be very closely related to what we did last year, and I still wanted something that was in the same vein because again, I have spent money on this decor, so I don't just want to be like, okay, never using that stuff again. But so I do want to use the things that I do have, but feel like it's still a challenge and something fresh. This year for my birthday, I went to Disneyland. It was the first time in a while. I haven't been to Disneyland, I think, in 8 years, which is crazy considering we're 30 minutes away. But we just never find the time to go. And I really want to go for my 30th. I hadn't gotten to ride the Haunted Mansion ride ever. And I finally got to ride it. And I felt inspired as soon as I walked in. And I don't want to do as per usual. I want to feel like Haunted Mansion, but something real. Not, and I tried looking up something online that would feel in this vein, and I've not found anything. Absolutely nothing. I tried, I mean, there's Gothic Halloween, and there's bits of Gothic Halloween that would make sense for this theme, and I've found pieces that were kind of like that, but nothing that was on the nose of New Orleans Gothic, Haunted Mansion, dark academia, like not even dark academia, because again, it's a kitchen, but apothecary, fortune teller space. I don't know if I'm just putting in the wrong type of words or what, but I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find anything that was in that vein that I was looking for, which is like, okay, got it. So I got to use my own imagination. But I think that I have a good basis for the Halloween theme in the kitchen, considering last year's theme, which again was practical magic. It was a cottage witch kitchen. So we have to kind of shift that from a cottage witch to something more Gothic, New Orleans, 1800s, of course, because we're looking at Haunted Mansion. We're thinking blue tones, purple tones, cobwebs, greens, teals. Of course, those are the Haunted Mansion kind of color palette. But also, Madame Leota is a fortune teller. So we have to have a crystal ball. And no, I don't want to... I personally am not looking to make, at this moment, a Madame Leota crystal ball. I've seen a lot of DIYs where people take fish bowls and Barbie heads and stuff like that, and they make their own Madame Leota. I don't want to make a Madame Leota in this space. I want it to feel like Madame Leota before she died. That's kind of where I come from with the Madame Leota space. Not necessarily that I want whenever I do these spaces, I always want to feel like you literally stepped into those spaces. And so I also am not looking for Haunted Mansion memorabilia. Maybe like doing some research on some of the stories and like, the busts and the ghosts that are actually in Haunted Mansion and having some very real looking things in regards to that, just like how the ride does. So the ride, what I loved, especially when we're up in the attic and you have the broken-hearted bride. I know that's not the appropriate name for her, but you go up there and you lead up to seeing that ghost with seeing a lot of vintage photos of her and her love and all these other things that give you this idea of the story without these like goofy paintings or something. I love the idea of the ride rather than the merch that comes out of Haunted Mansion, which is kind of hokey. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it more just like it feels cartoonish. And I want something that feels very real to the ghosts and their stories that are in that mansion. If that makes sense. I don't know if it does. That being said, I don't really like using vintage photos of real people in my house just because photos hold souls. And that's why I don't collect vintage photographs personally, unless they're of my own family, because I don't know who those people are. I don't know if they're still, like, what they have or what type of unrequited anything. So, of course, I won't be adding any of those specific vintage photos to the area, but I want that as an inspiration and an example of something that feels specific item-wise or anything to those stories that are in the Haunted Mansion. French Gothic is the idea. And where I'm trying to move is very French Gothic. So while I'm looking at this, I do love that there's a teacup fortune-telling book in there. I think finding some more fortune-telling books would be great, considering Madame Leota. I think including tarot cards in the space would be fantastic. I think still using some of these apothecary jars are still fine, but let's focus on them as herbal medicine. Like, oh, that's all this witch does, because Madame Leota probably, of course, dabbled in some of that, but her main thing was fortune telling. So that's the focus that there's gonna have to be. Also, definitely going to have to look at what type of greenery would be in the, like, bayou swamp areas of New Orleans and include those in the shelves. So I've already gone to Michael's. They right now have their spring half off. 60% off, I think, even. This is a huge tip. If you are sitting here setting a scene of any kind that has to do with any sort of florals, try for your Halloween, try buying during the end of the spring season at Michael's, because they're putting things half off, 60% off, and all of that. And the thing is that they can be used during Halloween. They just have it marked as spring. All of the things that I used essentially in my witch kitchen area were all from the spring line. There's a couple of things here and there that just had a bit of a darker tone that I mixed in, that kind of still gave it that look that it was something that was Halloween or a little bit spookier, but a lot of those things were 50% off, which makes a lot of sense when you're buying a lot of florals, when you're buying a lot of greenery, and each stem is $7. You're like, that adds up. But if you have it half off, you can get two, and you're like, okay, well, now that's making more sense. Also, during that video, I talk a lot about breaking down stems. So please go watch that video if you're kind of looking to do something similar this year. I have a lot of tips on how to really spend the least amount of money as possible trying to build out a very green feeling area. It's another big thing. I'm looking for a lot of pewter. I'm looking for a lot of silver. I'm looking for a lot of those types of colors to fit in with the Haunted Mansion. Steel, black, aged, things like that. Again, the color palette is going to be very different from this. Again, this isn't like an earth magic type of space. It's something far more 1800s Gothic spiritual. So I think while I'm looking for things, I definitely need to be looking for things in the more spiritual realm. My Lenormand deck maybe could be used in that space. Folklore type of books, ghost stories, like these are the things that would be in the space, as opposed to things that seem like herbal medicine, magic. So I'm probably gonna have to look for books in that realm. I would like to probably find some aged literature books that fit the color palette, since it will kind of feel a little bit academic just because of the time period rather than what the space itself is. The crafts that we're looking at. Less crafts than last year. Last year I had so many crafts. And we got through a good majority of them. I'm still very proud of some of the things that I crafted. But for the kitchen area, I'm thinking sculpted busts. So I have already found it was 50% off at Michael's. It was a very heavy pot for a plant, but it was in that very that cement gray color that I'm looking for the Haunted Mansion look. But she looks a little too happy. I need her to look a little bit less serene. So I probably will be sculpting her out a bit, possibly doing my own sculpted busts that feel very realistic, trying that out. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, trying to make my version of a crystal ball. I think trying to, I don't know, maybe on eBay I can find one for really cheap or in these stores and stuff. But I think making my own, and again, something that feels real, not necessarily like a Madame Leota type of crystal ball situation, I think would be really interesting and fun in the space. So that's my kitchen. Oh my god, we've got to get through like 3 other videos though. So going into now my book nook area from the kitchen. As I talked about in length, I had this amazing 90s first grade Halloween party. And I keep saying first grade just because it's more specific to me being a millennial at that age. Halloween party space above my book nook. And it was amazing. I still feel like I love that space. I honestly feel like when I bring some of those items out that some of them may stay around year round to go into some empty spaces throughout my house, because after I finished decorating, I think that I got rid of a lot of items that I no longer really needed, which is great. You know, you start to get older, your tastes change, and you sit there and you donate things you just don't need anymore. And now I just realized it feels a little bit like there's a lot of empty spaces that could have some of my other items that I do like a lot around year round. And I really loved the color palette that was used. Now, this year, this color palette is not necessarily all going to be in this space. They're probably going to feel some of this more so in the TV area, which I'll get to in just a moment. But the idea for this space is taking it back to our first year when I started the channel and I was decorating, and that's trick-or-treaters. I looked back at that video after doing what I did last year. My original trick-or-treat with me, in like trick-or-treater themed video for decorating. I don't think it was trick-or-treat. I think it was just Halloween, and the Halloween that I like. Which is also great because it's like, wow, you're getting better at this. I want to try that theme again. And I want to try feeling a bit more purposeful. And I also don't want to necessarily focus on one decade. So while I just sat there and talked so much about detail and everything, I want to focus on it feeling a lot more just overall trick-or-treat. The big thing though is that my Halloween town that I usually put on my shelves, I'm gonna move it up on my bookshelf this year. During Christmas, I usually decorate our Christmas town up on our bookshelf, and I want to try and do the same thing for Halloween this year. One, because I really like how the strip lights look behind our Christmas town, and I want to see what that looks like for our Halloween town. Two, because we now have some Limax figures that light up, and I think that they would look a lot better up at the top. We have like a little remote so that we could turn it on, and I think that that would look really cool. We also have some houses and things that I think looked a little strange seeing them very close up because of sizing issues, which I talk about in length in my vintage Halloween decorate with me video if you want to know more about it. But essentially I just don't feel like, I feel like as much as you're paying for Limax, everything should be to size. Like anything you buy should be to size, period. And I wanted to experiment with the idea of them being up at the top. In between some of those houses and trick-or-treater and type of area that we're seeing, I want to fit in costumes and candy and these toys that I've collected from the millennial 90s, and even really incorporating some of those vintage Halloween items that I have that have trick-or-treaters, or the statuettes, or what else is there? Some of even the monsters that I have and everything. Like I think that it would be really great on how to feeling more purposeful with those Halloween specific items and merging them with the 90s specific items that I've now collected from last year's theme, and creating this overall Halloween trick-or-treater feel being combined with these light up elements of the Halloween town. We'll see. I think there's plenty of things from my 90s section that can be used again, like this section, the screenshot right here that I'm showing up on the screen, where I have the Spider-Man costume, which was really great. I got that for such a great deal because somebody was trying to get it out of their attic, and the guy was so nice. And I love that it doesn't say Spider-Man, it says TV hero costume. It feels very much like this we didn't get the rights, which I did love, and even the Casper Collegeville costume. So having a Ben Cooper and a Collegeville costume is really great. That happened the other year before last, and I can't believe I got that Collegeville costume for $15, to be honest. And it's Casper; it's a recognizable like motif. I think that it just because the box itself is a little beat up, they were selling it for that much. The McBoo bucket, I got that one last year, and including that in the space, these candy boxes, maybe having some of the houses be on pedestals of candy boxes. I think definitely including getting some more candy boxes will definitely fill out the space. I don't know about some of these like statuettes that I have though. And I also have jack-o'-lanterns, which I think would also be fun to sprinkle throughout as well. So just something that feels like very specific to trick-or-treating, but not necessarily it's an era. We're just simply looking at trick-or-treating and having those mixed in with the houses that are specific to that. I feel like would be something fun and would be a redemption from when I did it the first year. Because I look at that video and I'm like, these are all great items. This is not a thing. This is not a thing. So I'm really interested in seeing where that kind of goes. And I'm like, what are the DIYs? I don't have any specific DIYs for this currently. I don't think that every space needs to have a DIY. I did so much last year. I did so much DIY. So I don't know if I could do another year of that many DIYs. And I don't know if this space is going to need them, to be completely honest. A lot of this is costume makeup, vintage costume makeup, which I got that last year also for this space, so that could be up there. Again, the candy spaces and everything. I think if anything ends up getting DIY'd, it may be I'm going to do a foray into fake food again and maybe do that. But last year I did those fake Halloween cookies. I could bring those back in, and I also did those popcorn, the fake popcorn that I had in the movie area, and I think that that's still applicable to the trick-or-treating space. So we'll see. I don't know how many of those I even kept, or if I even kept all of them, because they were so easy to make, and I don't know if I ended up keeping the popcorn. I don't know until I do my complete and utter unhaul. Well, not unhaul. I don't want to say unhaul, but just what do I call it every year? I don't know. I look at everything in my collection, see what needs to get donated, see what I'm still in love with, see what can be used for this year. And I don't know if I kept that popcorn from last year, to be completely honest, but I can always make it again. And I think that that would still work for the trick-or-treat space. That is the space over my book nook. Editing me is going to have so much to edit out. Because this is really stream of consciousness. I have notes, y'all, but I'm really like sitting down and kind of having a conversation with y'all about like what all of this is. What are we doing? Now we are getting to my TV area, which arguably I think is going to be my favorite area of the year. I think last year I called it when I was like my 90s area is probably going to be my favorite area. This area I think is going to be my favorite this year. And I can usually tell because I'm already really moving ideas. Like I can feel myself thinking of things very easily for the idea. Things that can be DIY, things that I can get. And that is my Blockbuster video around my TV area. I don't know where this was birthed out of, to be honest, but I don't know if it was maybe like trickle down from the 90s theme that I had last year, but all of a sudden I was like, I want a VHS, I want a video rental store during Halloween. I want to recreate that feeling. And it originally was going to be in my kind of area in my living room that has the shelves, and that's because it had the shelves, so I thought it would really look great putting all of my VHS cassette tapes into there. And I realized that didn't make sense. It needs to go around the television. So this year, that is our plan. The VHS cassette tapes, the standees, the candy racks, the just going into the video store during Halloween season. I am very excited for this theme. I'm like, last year we made the what is it called? It's like a light box, the light box that has our messages on it. We made that from scratch. That was such an amazing DIY, and I still have that up. It still sits underneath our television, which is crazy, but it's insane every time I look at it too, because I'm just like, I can't believe I DIY'd that. Last year was the Monster Movie Mash area, and it turned out amazing. I loved it, truly. But I also felt like it was a bit, okay, here are just all of my favorite movie items in one space. You know, aside from the popcorn and the buckets and of course the movie sign. Everything kind of just felt like it was up there, which is fine. It was great. It was enjoyable. I loved watching like any of our movies up there, but I want something that feels a little bit more specific, detailed, the ongoing factor in all of this. I am currently going into thrift stores every other day. Whenever I leave, I hit the nearest thrift store, see if they have any VHS cassette tapes, see if they have any horror related VHS, and I'm just buying them. So I've been slowly building that collection, going into thrift stores, and I plan on doing that all the way up until I probably decorate, or until I'm just like, this is enough. I have plenty. This is far than enough. I've been doing well so far. I found some the other day. So I've been doing that. Now, I do plan on doing a snack section. Very excited about this because this is where the DIYs are coming in. So did I look online to see if there were any recreations or props that I could buy of old 90s looking Doritos bags or M&Ms or Fruitopia or like bottles or something like that? Yes. Did I find anything? No, I did not. I found a lot of overpriced empty bags, old bags on eBay, and nobody's making them. Like, I feel like that's a market. And I don't even think that they're really making them for movies and shows, because I remember in my searches, I found that in that 90s show, a lot of people lost their minds because they were in a convenience store and the Doritos bags and the Cheetos bags that were in the convenience store were not era appropriate. Like, they were just regular Doritos bags, and people lost their minds. They were like, those aren't right. What are you talking about? And to be honest, and in fairness, it was glaringly obvious. So it was really weird considering, and especially because of all of the set design that went into that 70s show, it just felt a little cheap. I say all that to say I am making my own Doritos bags. I am making my own snack. Fruitopia. I'm going to be grabbing some bottles of, I don't really drink soda, like bottled soda, but I'm probably going to be grabbing some bottles, possibly cans. I've been looking at a lot of videos and researching how people do prop design, which has been a lot of fun. This is why I do what I do, like why I design the way that I design. So maybe there will be cans, but I do think for sure I want some Fruitopia. I am like, Fruitopia has to be at this video store. I'm going to be making my own like Fruitopia label to go around some bottles, Pepsi and Coke bottles as well, maybe an orange soda. And I've also kind of looked at how to like do the liquid inside of those bottles. I'm probably gonna have to do some resin because I don't want to have actual liquid in those bottles. An idea was even floating around of like getting a mini fridge and just getting bottles to put inside of that and having some stuff. Love the idea. Very expensive to pull off. We're not doing that. But, you know, having some stuff like that, maybe scattered about like the credenza, like we had for the Monster Movie Mash. I had a lot of the popcorn buckets and memorabilia kind of scattered about. I would love to do a snack rack tower and maybe have some other items scattered about in there. I think it's very easy. Now, once I do it, who knows? But that is one of my main things that I'll be DIYing this year is snacks again. We're doing snacks. I think also one thing that I'm going to probably have to DIY for this space are standees. Again, I was looking online, and I'm going to continue looking online, hoping that I just find somebody who doesn't know maybe what they have or is just trying to get rid of stuff. Standees, we're looking at $100, $200, $300. I found something that was $600. For standees that are even the size, I was looking for the ones that would go near the register when you were a kid. I'm not paying $150 for something that small. As somebody who's not a movie enthusiast, I could see if you were like, oh, I'm a movie collector, and so fine. But I'm not, so I'm like, that's just far too much money. And I'm not looking for a 6 foot tall Jason. I'm not really looking for something like that. So I think that I'm gonna have to look at some of those old standees and make my own, which isn't that in intimidating, because I had to make a standee for Night Terror Magazine's Zine Fest table. So we had to do a standee for that, and it's pretty easy. I'm not very concerned about that. But I have a lot of ideas moving around for this space. I've already found a good amount of things for it just off of going to like a singular thrift store run. But I do think that I have, of course, plenty of things to work with as far as just memorabilia to scatter throughout. I think a lot of this is just building out the space. So that's why the DIYs are really going to come in. Moving on to our very last space is our storybook Halloween area. And really it's going to be Gothic Halloween. I've not done a Gothic Halloween space at all, surprisingly enough. I just have never been really attracted to that type of dark aesthetic as somebody who really loves traditional Halloween, as somebody who's very bright themselves, and also just really loves like a millennial looking Halloween. I've never really gotten into the Gothic Halloween. And I noticed in my movie MASH area that I had Frankenstein and Dracula and all of these very Universal Monster memorabilia that didn't have a lot of space to really shine, in my opinion, and really be focused on. And that's when the storybook Gothic Halloween was kind of born. It was originally going to go around my television, and then of course Blockbuster came in and ruined that. And it also didn't make as much sense. So I thought, let's put those on the shelves and focus more on the Gothic storytelling of Halloween. And this is to kind of feed into that Nosferatu vibe that I know Halloween decor stores are going to really move in on this year because of Nosferatu releasing last December. I think that we're definitely going to see a lot of Gothic Halloween in the stores, a lot of vampires, I think there's a possibility of them even exploring Universal Monsters as a whole, especially with just a lot of the Universal Monster universe happening at Universal this upcoming year and everything. I think that this is something that we're probably going to see a lot of. Now, how is that going to translate? I'm thinking something that's like Edgar Allan Poe, Sleepy Hollow, Nosferatu, Dracula, Frankenstein, but very dark, which is something very different for me because I don't do dark. I don't do a lot of black and everything. I do very nostalgic Halloween. And again, I think this is going to be something that puts me out of my comfort zone and will be something to challenge me. So there'll be like dark bronze and red, crimson, pewter again. I think there will be a lot of things from the Haunted Mansion area that if they don't really fit there, they'll fit in the Gothic area that I'm kind of building out. I have some Edgar Allan Poe books. I have the Edgar Allan Crow statue that I got from Michael some year back when they did that Sleepy Hollow. I mean, they've done the Sleepy Hollow look for like, 3 years now? 2 or 3 years now? I'm hoping this year that they do something different at Michael's. They always have leftover merch, and we know that they're going to just change their merch theme to fit slightly in line so that they don't have to make a ton of new merch. That being said, I think that there was a ton left over from their more classic Halloween release, vintage Halloween that they released last year, and they have not brought back the folk Halloween in who knows how long. I'm sitting here and hoping that regardless of the fact that like none of my themes really fit in that space, I'm always hoping that Michael's finally gets their crap together and re-releases like some folk Halloween, because they haven't done a real folksy paper mache looking type of vintage Halloween in a very long time. And they've leaned so far cutesy, I think that they've lost the plot. because some people really, those items are still selling on eBay for very high prices, and they look like they're actually vintage. So I hope that they bring back any of the Sleepy Hollow stuff that they're inevitably going to bring back because they have leftover merch. I just hope that they move it in a more Nosferatu wintry gothic line. Last year they had the white goth type of thing, and I think that for some of the minimalist goths out there, they're happy to finally have some icy goth things. And of course they always bring back the romance like type of thing with the pinks. I really want something that is just very black. Black, bronzed, aged, steel. Those things that they were doing for the Sleepy Hollow line, bring that back, but dark. If you're going to bring it back, if you're not, great, fantastic, wonderful. We love seeing a new theme. But if they are, I would love to see that. And I think there's a possibility of that considering they already brought back the Gothic Bordeaux line for the summer. I've already bought those windows that they were selling because I had some coupons and I got them for really cheap. But I'm hoping that they maybe bring some of that back because it would be a huge help in that space. Now, some of my things that I even had for my practical magic space last year can work in this space because of the bronze age look. I think I had like a skeleton head that was bronze that I got from Home Goods. That could maybe work in this space if it ends up being a little too dark for the Haunted Mansion area. For the Monster Mash area, I had tons of Dracula and things like that that could be used in this area. I'm thinking of Gothic storytelling, the forefathers of horror, if you will. I have some Edgar Allan Poe pieces. Creepy cloth is going to, of course, be used. Just feeding off of that Nosferatu vibe that we got during December in that space. And we'll see. I mean, of course, I have some crows that may go in that area. I will certainly be in that area. Maybe some black haunted houses that I have from when I did my decorate with me space for the vintage Halloween. I think that I have things from each one of, other than the 90s Halloween, but from other spaces that could work in this space. I just feel like it's really outside of my comfort zone, and it's something that I feel like will be interesting to explore. So that is for my shelving area in my living room. It's completely different than what I did last year, which was that vintage Halloween look, which I'll place a picture that I kind of took screenshot of down here. It's very different, and it's mainly that different because I felt like that section for many years has felt like an afterthought. Instead of feeling more like we had a theme, we were really looking into something. I think that I moved into something brighter last year by doing my vintage Halloween over there because the year before that I had a lot of dark black over there and it felt like a black hole. But now looking back at that video, I think it felt that way because it didn't feel like it had a strong theme. Now decorating the way that I decorate, I don't expect that now. And I'm really excited to see what I could do with something outside of my comfort zone. That is my very long halfway to Halloween planning video. It is I know there's a lot of ums and ahs and things that are gonna get cut out of here. Editing me, I am so sorry in advance for only basically doing this off of a cup of coffee. But even going through all of those videos that I had last year was a lot. I have so many ideas and I had so much fun doing the themes I did last year, really coming up with stuff that was and themes for these areas that felt different from last year was really hard. I loved my 90s area. I loved even my Monster Mash area, and I loved my kitchen. And to sit there and go, okay, you've got to do something different. Because I want to, again, like I said, I like the challenge of doing something different. I can always come back to some of those themes next year and see how I can do them better or differently. Especially, I'm going to change as a person. So, of course, I'm going to think of those themes very differently. Just even from 1 year alone decorating, it looked extremely different than what it did last year. And I really kind of had a lot of trouble at first coming up with these ideas, but the blockbuster theme I think is something that will really challenge me. Even my trick-or-treater area above my book nook, I feel like it's a very loose concept that may feel the most like the I Spy book space that I'm always like looking for when I do the maximalism. The Haunted Mansion is same but different, something a little bit darker and spookier than the warm practical magic set design space that I was kind of doing last year. And the Gothic storybook Halloween space that I'm doing in my living room is very outside of my comfort zone of what I usually do. So I'm excited to see where all of these different spaces kind of go. I mentioned at the top of the video that there's a possibility that my top of my TBR shelving may even get a theme this year. And it has a lot to do with the fact that I have a lot of leftover items from my 90s Halloween space when everything is going to be said and done. I feel like there's going to be a lot of memorabilia 90s wise that are Halloween specific, but also just I love, that are not going to have a huge space to live in because they're not going to be trick or treat or appropriate for my Blockbuster area, and I want to have them out. I have a feeling that those may run into their own very small section that will just be a little mini memorabilia space, and there's a possibility that I may be building out a 90s memorabilia bookish type of section on my shelves. Right now, I keep on looking over here because I've kind of started to build that out with some of those Ben Cooper figures that I collected last year that I absolutely still love, and I keep them out because I love them. Recently I got a Goosebumps Haunted Mask Funko. I have, like I said, collecting some of those middle grade books. I just feel like I really love the look of those things outside of Halloween, and I'm starting to realize that maybe I just want a shelf that maybe it celebrates that year round. So there's a possibility when I take some of that stuff out, if it doesn't have a really specific place to go, I may be building out a shelf that houses those things just to kind of celebrate that year round and have it out, and it's just a little happy shelf. We'll see what ends up happening with all of these spaces, to be completely honest. As y'all saw last year, and one thing that I love doing and why I broke down each space into its own video is I love showing you guys how I'm coming to conclusions on building out the spaces. I don't just want to put something up and then show y'all the end result after a speed run of me walking around putting things in everywhere, and you guys go, how did she do that? I want y'all to be able to do it yourselves and see like how much work and thought process goes into putting some of these things up, how much back and forth, how it grows, how it changes. Looking back these videos was fantastic because it also helped me see what was your thought process on doing that in the first place, and going, okay, I can use that inspiration coming at whatever thing I decide to do this year, or also going, I would have done that differently now knowing what I know. Thank y'all. I am so excited to get started with Halfway to Halloween. I'm so excited to start Halloween. I mean, the other day when I started Halloween hunting by accident, it was fantastic. And even today, I have to go pick something up, so I'll be out. And now that I get off so early from my job, y'all, I am going to be a force to be reckoned with. But I do think that because of where my collection is currently, and I said this last year, so I don't want to jinx it, but I don't want to be just buying things to be buying things. And I don't feel like I did that last year. I do feel like I bought things that really hit the theme. I mean, things were coming in here. My partner was seeing some of the things from the 90s section. He's like, I have no clue how that's related to Halloween. Once he saw it all together, he went, this is probably your best theme you've ever done. The movie section did feel a bit like self-serving in the fact that it was a lot of memorabilia for shows and movies and series that we both love, like X-Files. And now that stuff is like out all year. And then the Practical Magic Kitchen, I think again, I was collecting a lot of things that just seemed old or out of context of Halloween. And my partner was just like, I don't see how this is Halloween. And then when he saw it all together, he's like, this is amazing. So I want to keep that same energy this year, and everything that I bought last year, for the most part, looking back at those videos, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to pull that out. But I do want to stay on target. I don't want to move. I think in the movie section, there are some things that I bought thinking that I didn't have enough things, and then I ended up having far too many things. And I think when I end up doing my audit, my Halloween audit, there will be some monster memorabilia that's just gonna have to go. Like, I'm just not in love with it. I bought it because I felt like I needed more monster memorabilia, and turns out that I didn't. And now I feel like my collection of Halloween stuff is quite large, and I don't want to have far too much. Again, we don't have tons of space, and we don't have a humongous house. Like, the spaces that we decorate in are already pretty much filled to the brim, and I had to take things down just to put things up. I don't want to go too crazy, and also with just the state of money, thrifting is going to be the best. And I said earlier in this video, we've kind of been forced to start thrifting and eBay and shopping amongst ourselves for these Halloween items, with Joann's going out of business. Michael's really is the only space now for Halloween decor, you know. Still have Home Goods and maybe Marshall's, but last year, Marshall's really didn't do it for me. TJ Maxx didn't do it for me. Home Goods still had some good things here and there, but not as much as they were when I first started home decor hunting. And Michael's, once you kind of get the stuff that you need from Michael's, you're kind of done. So eBay and thrifting was a huge thing for me last year, and really getting into the mindset of collecting rather than decorating was where it really took off. And I see that being the same case this year. And all things considered, of all the things that were bought last year, they were all estate sales and thrift stores and like eBay, and really priced well because of where I was buying them. And I plan to do the same thing this year. I think the more that I'm trying to figure out what needs to be in these spaces, the more I'll probably realize, okay, I need to DIY this, I need to DIY that. Because even last year, doing my halfway to Halloween, I had plenty of DIY ideas, and I either found some of those things or new DIY ideas came up in the long run. That is the end of this video. I'm so excited, y'all, obviously. And I'm also really excited to start Halloween decor hunting and showing y'all what I'm finding out there, and how I plan on putting it all together in the long run and getting it all up. We're getting, it's like, what, 199 days? I think, as I'm recording this, it's the 15th. So there's like 199 days, I guess, till Halloween. Somebody said it was 200 days till Halloween, I think yesterday or earlier this week. So we're closing in, all things considered. And later on this month, I'll be going spooky swap meet shopping. I think that's going to be a vlog on its own. Last year, I combined it with the halfway to Halloween planning that I did. But this video is already going to be so long that I think it just needs to be its own vlog. And I'm trying to get better with creating these smaller snippets of vlogs in between my really bigger videos, just so that it's not just as long overall. Thank y'all for watching. I will see you on the next one. I will see you on the next Halloween video. So excited to show y'all all the things that are coming. I'm just excited to get into it. But please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe down below if you're looking forward to any other Halloween content that will slowly be trickling into this channel. I would love to have you here, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.